Not everyone has logged into our Canvas course shell, and I know who you are because I can see how long you've logged on, what you've logged on to see. Some of you are already behind because you have not even logged on yet, which means you don't have your homework packets with you and you don't have your materials with you. And by the time I see you tomorrow, you definitely want to rectify that and get your materials organized, please. Not for my sake, but for your sake. When you log on to Canvas, this is our home page, and you have 4 lecture units and 2 lab units. You will need to bring your lab units every day. Your lab unit, you can take it to be printed if you want to a print store, or you can turn everything in electronically, and I'll explain how in just a moment. But you need to bring it with you in some version, either a hard copy or on your tablet or computer. Same thing with your homework packets. And homework packets can be found under lecture units. You can also turn those in electronically, and I'll explain how. But you're going to want to bring them with you every day in some form, either electronically or hard copy. And I will explain why it's important to bring them with you every day. Not because I'm going to spot check them. That's not what I'm going to do. It's a good technique to follow in order to be best prepared for this class and get the most out of the lecture. We're together for about 4 hours, depending on if you're going to stay for discussion or not. And I'll talk about the discussion section in just a moment. It's a great way, if we're here together for so long, to keep yourself in the zone and paying attention and not daydreaming over the ending of the Game of Thrones. So you got to stay in the zone. Huh?
Auto zones.
This is just my little warm-up PowerPoint. Late afternoon class, you will have a lecture today on homeostasis. Today in class, it's just, I got to get you organized. You might feel this way. I hope you do. That's normal. If you do not feel this way in this picture, then you are way too comfortable for this summer class. And I suggest you rearrange that attitude a little bit. I should update this picture for Everest because the lines are much longer to get to that attraction ride, apparently, from all the news. Do you know how to read? Do you read the news? You've heard about the horrible deaths on Mount Everest this year? Yeah, those are not the waiting lines anymore. But I like to think of myself as your Sherpa. I will do a lot of the heavy lifting, but not all of the heavy lifting. You have still got to climb this mountain. But I am a good resource. A lot of students, like I said, don't feel comfortable coming to their professor during office hours because they don't have a question. They feel they're wasting their professor's time. I am here to tell you I have 5 hours of office hours throughout the week. Mondays and Wednesdays, I have office hours from 2 to 3:30, and then I have office hours on Tuesday, Thursdays from 2:30 to 3:30. Between office hours and the tutors at the tutoring center, and they will have different hours that you can go to, you definitely want to seek out help in that regard. If you are the person, well, I attend a UC school, fill in the blank. I am a graduate of a UC school, or fill in whatever school you want to. I've never used tutoring before. This is just a community college. I have already been to a big boy, big girl university. I don't need this. I know how to study. That's cute and that's darling. why not start out getting the assistance, take the first exam, and then say, yep, I know what to do. I don't need you anymore. I'm okay with that. But start out getting help through either me or the tutors. I think you should read the book.
It's helpful.
But as I told the earlier class, it's summer. You're going to have to pick and choose how you budget your time throughout the day. And letting the book go to the side is probably what you're going to choose to do. I'm okay with that. Just so you know, when everyone says to you, she gets what she tests from is straight from her PowerPoint. I got my information for the PowerPoints from the textbook. It is a clinically based medical textbook. It is extremely sound. They use it at UCI, well, they used to use it at UCI Medical School. Now they use a different medical physiology textbook that's twice the size of Guyton and Hall. And I would love to use that. But no one would ever buy that book, because half of it is online. They even tell you the publisher could not publish it all in one book because there was too much information. But it's an awesome book. I do recommend that you at least get the book for future use, even after the class, especially if you're going to take this class for nursing or PA prerequisite requirements, because you will have to do care plans. And there is a lot of clinical information in that textbook. This is a very clinically based class. They don't really teach this class in the same way at other community colleges in the surrounding area. I know, I've taught at them. We use a medical school textbook, not a traditional 2-year physiology textbook. You won't be able to make flashcards, in my opinion, in the amount of time that we have together for the summer. Even if it were a regular semester, I don't think flashcards are very useful. You can't really just memorize the material. You have got to be able to talk about it. It's very conceptual and it's application-based. But feel free to prove me wrong. That is my cell phone number. You can't make it to office hours, you can't go to tutoring, but you have questions. Feel free to send me a text. If I do not reply right away to your text, it's probably because you're studying in the middle of the night and I'm sleeping. But when I wake up at 6-something in the morning and you've gone to bed, I'll be sure to reply. Or it might be that I'm having dinner with my family. In either case, you will hear from me. And it might be, what are some good times can I call you? Sometimes it's just a lot easier to solve the problems of the world if we can do this over phone conversation versus text or even email. And a lot of times the written word is definitely misinterpreted versus hearing someone's voice. Have you ever done that? Read someone's text or email message? I'm guilty of this, and I come downstairs to my honey and I go, I just got this email, and this is what she said. And my honey will say, is that really what it sounded like? No, it's not what it sounded like. So I've learned to sing through text messages and email. Sing through it. It's a totally different perspective. If I do reply to your email or text messages, sing through mine as well. Sometimes I am replying in such a quick fashion, students get insulted. Forgive me if I do not reply every time with, Kira, the sky is blue and the birds are chirping. And my day is even better because you texted me. Thank you so much. Here's the answer to your question. It might just be, vomit, there's the answer. And it doesn't mean that I'm mad at you. It's just, here's the answer. Okay? Okay. It's true. I've done that to you too. It's just vomit, here we go. That is my office phone number, although even for office hours, I'm usually not in my office because we just moved to a bigger space where I have more table space because quite a few students will be brave enough to come to office hours. We'll move to a bigger room. That is my email as well. On Canvas, I will tell you what we need for the coming week or even the next day, especially in the summer. Be prepared to have me light up your inbox on the announcements page telling you, hey, tomorrow I said I was going to do this, but now realizing what's coming up, I should probably work on this topic first before I finish the other one I started. What is due and when? Let's first talk about homework packets. The homework packets are found under every lecture unit. Right now you have lecture unit 1 that you've probably already looked at. They are quite lengthy. The homework packets are going to be due the class time before your scheduled lecture exam. If you were to have a lecture exam this Thursday, then your homework packet would be due Wednesday night. So it's the class time before. When I grade it, does anybody have their homework packet with them? When I grade it, this is going to be how I grade your homework packet. Perfect score, good job. Turning in the materials I'm about to go over is 10% of your grade. That is roughly the same weight as an exam. Lab exams are worth 10%, lecture exams are worth 12%. Just for doing your job, turning in your homework packet complete and when it's due. That is what we call in teacher speak an alternative assessment. So it is a reward to you. I just check it for it being complete and turned in on time. I check, I give it back to you. Once everyone has turned in their homework packets, click, I reveal the answers. Which means if you say to me, Kara, I forgot it at home, here's what I'm going to say. Of course, you can take pictures of it, send it to me. You have my text, my cell phone. You can text your pictures to me, but then I won't reveal the answers until I get everyone's homework packet, which certainly means that your fellow classmates will find out who you are. They will follow you home, and they will even say, can I assist you in taking pictures of your homework packet? So please try and remember, I always remind you, homework packets are due today. You can submit them, hard copy. I will give them back to you that very day. You can email them to me. If you are going to do this electronically, you can highlight your answers. You can type in your answers. I'll even upload, if it's not there, a Word document so it's easier for you to type in your answers if you want. You can send that to me before you even show up to campus that day. Feel free to turn it in either of those formats, or even take pictures of it. Or some people take a video of them flipping through it page by page slowly enough so I can see that everything is complete. Are there any questions about the homework packet? You do want to pay attention to the homework packet. These are previous exams that we have compiled because students say, how are you going to test us on this? What should I expect? I'm going to say, look at your homework packet. Those are previous exams. And sometimes the questions are too good to let go of. You might see them again on your exam. It is a practice test that you get credit for. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's how I recommend using your homework packet on a daily basis to ensure your success. I would, after today's class, go home and I would read through every page of your homework packet. Early afternoon class, we almost got through our entire first lecture on homeostasis and thermoregulation. You could flip through that and find every question that pertains to homeostasis and thermoregulation and answer those questions. I would also every night just look at all of the questions, even though you might say, no, I have no idea, she hasn't covered that yet. Read them. Every day, read your homework packet. The next day, when I start lecturing on something, have it out with you, either the hard copy or somehow available on your computer. As I lecture, and it happens every time, you'll hear me say something, your brain will go, oh, that was in the homework packet. And then I'll see half the class going, digging, looking for it, and then going to each other, hey, it's on this page, it's on this page. That in teacher speak and learning, that's called front loading. When you pre-read, even though you don't know what you're reading, it does get in your head. Your brain is a very good supercomputer. And the next day when you hear me lecture on it, your brain is going to go, we saw that. We saw that it's somewhere. Hunt for it. It's like an Easter egg hunt. Okay? Every day. That is one thing that I highly recommend to ensure success. Read your homework packet. If you're not reading your book, you should be reading your homework packet. Word for word. The next set of items that are due deals with your lab work. There are 2 things you will be turning in for your lab work. These materials will be due when you have a lab exam. Now that one you need to see the calendar for. Because there are so many of you and lab materials are much grander in scope, I might ask for them to be turned in the day of your lab exam. I do not have answers for the questions in the lab manual. Because why? There are many ways to answer those questions correctly. But when you do a lab, when you answer those questions, when you are in lab, when I'm there, if you can't answer a question, that's the time to ask me. You will have time to answer those questions. Come to office hours and ask, Kara, I'm not sure, did I answer this as completely as you would like? You should be doing a preemptive strike and coming to me for the lab questions. If you need them, most of the time students don't. So the 2 things you will be turning in is the actual lab manual. On the cover page of the lab manual, you will see everything that you will be doing for that lab unit and how many points are associated with it when you turn it in. So even though the first lab unit is worth 56 points, again, this goes into the category of your class grade, 10%. This goes in the same category as your homework, just for doing it, turning it in complete. And that's how I'm going to grade it. Just like this. I'm going to flip through every page and make sure everything is complete. And make sure that you're not just writing your dog's name over and over and over, that you've actually tried to answer. So this is what you're going to turn in. This is item 1. Again, you can turn this in hard copy or electronically in some way, however you want to. Everyone clear on this? Item 1. Item 2, and this is listed on the cover of your lab manual, is our workbook, which is a computer simulation workbook. It's called PhysioX. You have options of how you might want to turn this in, okay? Here is option 1. You can write your answers in your workbook and turn in the workbook with your lab manual. Tuck them in with each other, put them in a bind. I don't care, you don't need to rip out the pages. But option 1, turn in the workbook with your written work. Good? That's option 1. Option 2, when you do these experiments, it's a computer simulation, which means you will be on a computer. When you go through these, your computer will prompt you to save your work, and you should. Do not use Safari. Do not use Safari. It does not play nicely with this platform. Use Google Chrome, use Mozilla Firefox, but don't use Safari. It won't save your work. And some of these experiments can take you 45 minutes, and no one likes to go through that, lose all their work, and the PhysioX will make you start over again. So when your computer says save, you say yes, and you can save it to your computer. All of the experiments. Then when I ask for your materials, I will say, when you're done with your lab exam, please come up with your computer. You'll pull up your PhysioX where you've saved them. Make sure it's not the folder that's titled porn, because I don't want to see what you have. PhysioX. I click on that and I open them to make sure you've done everything that I have assigned. All right? So that is another option. You save it to your laptop or your tablet, and you let me look at those files. Is everyone okay with that? Here's another option. Maybe you do not have a laptop that you're bringing with you, but you don't want to write in the book, and you don't want to print up all the PDF files that you're going to save. That's a lot of paper. What's stopping you from saving all those files to a flash drive and bringing that to me when all of your lab materials are due? Then I take that, I plug it into my computer, and I pull up those files. Or you can email me all of those PDF files. I love getting those emailed. Here's what you should know, though. If you email me your homework packets or the PDFs from your PhysioXs, and it's from your personal email, if the files are too big, your personal email might say it was sent, but my campus email will not accept them, thinking that it's a virus. If you do not get a personal reply to your materials that you submitted by email to me, or if you send me a text with a video of them, I will reply within 12 hours. If you do not hear from me, it means I did not get them. And that's on you to resend. You are better off sending it through Canvas. Then I definitely get all of those files. Have you heard me on that one? Okay. So how can you turn in your PhysioX? Let's count the ways. Hand in the workbook, completed. Save everything on your laptop or tablet and let me see them. Save everything on your personal home computer and download those files to a flash drive and bring that in to me. Or email me every single PDF file, but make sure you send it through Canvas. Good? Any questions about this? Here is a recommendation to be successful in this class with your lab materials, especially the PhysioX. I might say, Thursday, be ready to discuss PhysioX number 11. Then I will get so many of you saying, okay, I don't have my workbook yet. I won't be able to turn it in. When are lab materials due? The day of the lab exam. All I said was be ready to discuss it. If you don't have your workbook, fine. Then just listen as to what is going to happen. And when you get your workbook, make sure you go back and watch the YouTube video that where I'm discussing, here's what you did in that experiment, why is it important, and what should you take away from it. When I say be ready for discussion, you might have said, yeah, but last night was my birthday. I went out for margaritas. Fine. Everything is on YouTube. Everything is recorded and uploaded. And then you watch that video. But that is your moment in real time. If you've got questions about these experiments, when I discuss it, and I will, that's your time to say, Kara, wait, this happened. I am not sure why. Great question. Let's talk about that. Be ready for discussion merely says, I'm going to be talking about it that day. You should do your best to have it done so you can engage in conversation. Does that make sense? Do not fall behind on your physio X's. Do not fall behind. You might say, I'll wait and do them all on the weekend. Don't. Many of them do complement our lecture material. They do go together at times. It's weird how that works. Don't fall behind. Don't fall behind on your lab materials. Don't say, oh, that won't be due for 4 weeks. Then the weekend before your lab exam, you're frantically trying to finish everything. Then when are you going to study? And you're pretty much relegated to studying on the weekends when you take this class in the summer. That's it. So all your busy work should be done before the weekend. Weekend is the time to consolidate those concepts. Any questions about homework packets, lab manuals, physio X's, and how you can turn them in? Yes.
So we can start on all of those things like tonight.
Yes,
those
you
aren't done in class. I mean the labs.
These? Yes, you can.
Okay.
In fact, on your calendar, in your syllabus, I tell you which exercises are coming and the exercises are also listed on the front page of your lab manual.
Okay.
But in the syllabus, it should tell you which activities to do.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if that was supposed to be at home or if that was.
You do these at home.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Physio X's have exercises. So I will say, please do exercise 11. And then inside, they have activities. Then I will list which activity to do. You might not be assigned every activity in every exercise. So don't do more work than you have to. When you do these, it will be a computer simulation. You will either get that computer simulation by scratching off the code inside the textbook, or you might have been given a CD that goes with it. You don't need both. You need one of them in order to access these labs, which are online. Are you following? Okay. When you do these activities, you will notice that there is a pre-lab and a post-lab quiz when you're doing them online. And you will notice that the questions for the pre-lab and post-lab quizzes are different online than they are in the workbook. That's okay. That's okay. I will get an email from someone saying, here, I want to turn in my workbook, but the pre-lab questions are different than the ones that I did online. And I'm going to reply with, it's okay. even though they are different, throughout the workbook, they are still giving you similar questions that you will practice on. Okay, so they will be different online versus if you are doing the hard book option. Okay? But when you are doing the workbook option, if I assign an activity, you are also answering the questions that go with the activity. When you are on the computer will force you to do that. All right? So some students will say, well, I'm doing both then. Yeah, it's great practice. You want the A in the class, don't you? Redundancy is awesome. Whatever activity I assign, in the back, there are review questions that you are also expected to do. Only do the questions that go with the activities I assign. When you do this on the computer, it will say, here are the review questions. If you are filling everything in your workbook, you will need to remember to write in all of your answers to the review questions. Does that make sense? Okay, then here's what I recommend. Just to make sure that you get your groove going, I would do one activity between now and Thursday from exercise 11. I would just do activity 1. Just one activity. Why not figure out what system you want to use? Just do one activity. Figure out how to save everything. Did you forget and you were using Safari? You don't want to start going through a whole exercise and then have something not saved. Just do one activity. Just one. Work out the kinks. Just one. Exercise 11 and exercise 4 are 2 exercises that you will most certainly be assigned in the next week and a half. So why not just do one activity to work out your method for your PhysioX? You don't have to, it's just my recommendation. Yes, Stephen.
So in the same way the questions in the homework packet can be used for review, can the review questions in the PhysioX workbook be used for like lab exam review?
Absolutely, which is why I assign them. Yes, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, absolutely. The questions in your lab manual, they were actually written as a study guide for the lab exams. Students say, how should I study for the lab exam? To which I reply, pay attention to your lab manual. Every question in there is me saying, here's how you should be thinking about this lab that you've done. Here are some possible test questions. Please pay attention to your lab manual. Fill it out in real time. Do not leave lab early. How many of you have children at home? Spouses? Other annoying family members? You and I know that if you leave early and you go home and there are children involved, your spouse, babysitter, whoever is there watching said children, when you walk in that door, what happens? Tag! You're home, you're it, you're home, you're done with school. Why not stay? Don't go home. They can't get to you. I'm starting with my professor. She asked me to stay. It'll be our little secret. Don't go home. Fill stuff out. I know other professors probably like, oh, we're going to finish lab early. And you were like, yeah, leaving lab early. No, don't leave lab early. Don't ever leave lab early. Stay and work. I'm there. Why wouldn't you? I feel badly. You're staying with me. It's your time. It's your time. It's not that you're inconveniencing me. That's what I'm getting paid for. Do you understand? It's your time. Same thing with office hours. You'll come in, I'm so sorry, I have a question. Great! Sit down. I have food. Are you hungry? You want some tea? Are you thirsty? I have a soda. I'm not real, it's probably a stupid question. Those things exist, but I'll let you know. It's okay. They do exist. Stupid questions do exist. But that's okay. You're just little. You don't know. You're just little. Come to office hours. Do you know where my office is? So this building is a triangle. Have you figured that out? The hypotenuse, who knew that there would be math in this class? The hypotenuse is this side with all the windows. If you just follow the hypotenuse straight back, I am the last door before you get to the exit door to the stairwell out there. And we're the last suite of offices. The door is usually unlocked. You are allowed into that area. We have a whiteboard, we have comfy seats. If you bring your dinner, we have 2 microwaves. Feel free to go there and even sit. Honey, turns out I got a study group. Got a study group at noon. I gotta go to school. Dad, there it. Then come sit and do your work. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You got comfy places to sit and study. You got a microwave, you can heat up your food. Why wouldn't you? You're allowed in there. Come study. Well, Kara, I want to go there, but I don't know what to ask you in office hours. Here's what I do. You came to see me? It'll be like Elliot to E.T. Hold me right here. No one remembers that part of the movie? I'm dating myself. Hold me right here. We'll just sit in the outside common area. You can just sit there and eat your lunch, eat your dinner. You can work happily on your homework packet. And if you get to a question where you say, Kara, I'm not really too sure about this answer. Hold me right here. I'll just sit and work right next to you until you have a question. I'll just sit. It'll be like doing homework with my kids all over again. I'm just going to sit right next to you, make sure it gets done. You don't have to show up with the question. Just sit and be there and get work done. If something comes up, and sometimes we solve other problems of the world. Usually we talk about stuff that's not physiology related. It's fun. Just come. You don't have to come with a whole list of questions. Just, Kara, I just want to sit here and do my homework. Okay. Good? Any questions about how to organize yourself? Do you read your homework packet cover to cover every day? Bring it with you every day, because I'll be answering a whole bunch of questions in real time. Who wants to go home and struggle? Wouldn't you want to be here and go, oh, she just answered? And you need to start knowing each other really well. Not just early afternoon class and late afternoon class. You need to know each other very well now. Look around. Who's ever here today probably won't be here tomorrow. You want to know why? You're going to go home and start pulling up the calendar and seeing all of your exams and going, this was a very bad idea to take physiology during the summer. What was I thinking? You need to make friends. You might not be able to make it. Did I miss any? I love that email. Did I miss anything? No. Turns out I just sat there with my thumb up my ass. I didn't do a damn thing. Of course you missed something. Phone a friend. Watch the YouTube video. It's all there. It's all there. If you miss something or you need clarification, go to the YouTube video. It was slide whatever. You can scroll. There's slide what. Now, it might be a younger Kara. A younger Kara, dressed differently. But I have them there. Feel free. And it's the same jokes. For over a decade I've been doing it's the same jokes. Posted 2008. Damn, she said the same joke to us. Yeah, it's hard to rewrite the material. Or sometimes you didn't tell us that story. And then you all get mad because I didn't tell you a story that you heard on the YouTube. I need details. Okay, I'll tell you a story. Any questions? So, during the break, Stephen,
Yes.
you should be swapping information with anyone and everyone who's interested in forming a study group that will consistently meet.
Why you singling me out right now?
Because you came to me
That's right.
and asked for advice.
I got pretty much every word you said down, so we're good.
Good. You need study groups. And those of you who are like, I went to UC, whatever, we don't do study groups. Well, I went to UC as well. I have a son at a UC school too. And welcome to UCLA. UC left at Avery. You need each other. You need each other. And you better start figuring out who the smart people are in this class. It won't take long. You will sniff them out. Find out who they are. Start making study groups. Ready, set, go. You've got 10 minutes. Take a break, form study groups, and when you come back, we need to discuss discussion sections. Exchange information. Or did you? I would have gone across the room. Lots of different people. But you'll figure that out. So again, every way you can turn things in is written on the slide, but I've also discussed it for the lab materials. You heard me talk about the textbook. Ours is Guyton and Hall. There's another good thinner one by Costanzo. She's awesome. It's this thick. There is material I will talk about that she doesn't discuss in her book, but it's, hey, a book, any book is better than no book. There's also another even thinner one that's integrated physiology, the blue one up there, and it talks about how every organ system helps the body do its job and how they are integrated with each other. Early afternoon class, we already started talking about how every organ system has its job, but they do facilitate homeostasis with each other. The big green one that you're seeing there, that's the boron and bullpep that UCI Medical School uses. Whenever Honey wants some action, he always says, you can bring boron and bullpep in the bedroom. And I'm like, I'm not very G-rated. So your exams are going to be very quick. You do have a chemistry/math exam next week. Who knew that there would be math and chemistry in this class? But chemistry is a prereq for this class for a good reason. This week, in both lecture time and in lab, we will start talking about body fluid compartments and reviewing the chemistry/math that you will be tested on. If you want to know exactly what you will be tested on next week, it's the first, Dr. Shaw, is it the first 20 pages? 20 pages of your lab manual. You want practice problems? They're all there. Any of the chemistry, any of the math. So metric system, do you know your metric system? If you do, then you're going to be very bored when I review it. Do you know how to move from scientific notation to standard notation? If you do, then you're going to be very bored. Do you know how to use your calculator to calculate the pH of a solution? Using your standard pH is the inverse log of the hydrogen ion concentration. Do you know how to use the log button on your calculator? Do you have a calculator? Those are things that we need to address this week during our class and lab times. And then there are some questions on how to calculate osmolarities and osmolalities. Now, you might be saying, that's just the chemistry I have to get through. Well, the lecture I will give you on body fluid compartments is my way of proving to you why you care how to do those as a future clinical healthcare provider. Why would I test you on this? There are clinical ramifications. You can kill someone very quickly if you give them an IV saline solution that is not compatible with their body fluid compartments. Do you know that? And there is no partial credit for killing a patient. 0. So I'm going to tell you why you care, but then you're going to have a test on how do you actually calculate these things. Well, Kara, I will never have to calculate those solutions. I will never have to make them. Do you want me to bring in my mother? Because my mother is a nurse, and my mother had to make all of the saline solutions for her patients. That's how old I am. That's how old my mother is. I will bring in my mom. Well, Kara, we don't do that anymore. Oh, so we're not prepared for a zombie apocalypse? I'm being facetious somewhat, but having some sort of natural catastrophe is possible. And shipments might not come in, and supplies might be run out, and do you know what to do? Do you know how to give a person-to-person blood transfusion? Do you know how to figure out if they're compatible on the fly, in the field? So it's not a zombie apocalypse, but let's say you were thrown out into some catastrophe and you don't have all the bells and whistles. Do you know how to think? And that's part of your requirements in this class. It's my job to prove to you why you care. Why do you give a rat's whisker calculating osmolalities and osmolarities, and what is the difference? Okay, so tomorrow you're going to want to bring a calculator too. In your lab manuals, we're going to do math, math, math for the rest of the week. So over the weekend, you can study for that exam, which is worth 5% of your grade. 5%. Some of you might go, 2 middle fingers up. I don't care about 5%. Where are my Hermiones in the class? Hermiones? Anyone? Hermiones? 5%? Care? You care? Like every percent counts? Where are my Hermiones? That's what I thought. No Harry Potter fans. You will not be doing math on lecture exams. No calculators required. Any math we do is only on math exams, like this chemistry test, which is worth 5%. Your 2 official lab exams that are worth 10% each, and another 5% mini lab exam on EKG analysis. Don't worry about that yet. That's 4 weeks from now. You will need to learn to pace yourself on the exams. These exams are written for you to be able to complete them in 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is how long this class lasts. Starting in 10 minutes, we will have discussion section, and not everyone is signed up for discussion section. For liability reasons, if you are not signed up for discussion, you will need to leave the room. I record everything, so if you feel like, I'm gonna miss something, but I can't sign up for discussion, you can watch it on YouTube. You can see everything I'm going to do. But for liability reasons, that means also on exam days, you get your 1 hour and 20 minutes. I've been teaching this class before we had discussion sections. The exams can be completed in an hour and 20 minutes if you've done your job and studied appropriately. If you are enrolled in the discussion section, you get an extra hour because you can stay in the room. So, and by the way, I don't get extra commission for you signing up for the discussion section. I don't get extra money for it. I really don't. I don't get some sort of award for how many of you enroll. I'm just telling you, it is extra time that we will use to work on homework packets, to review material that should have been part of your prerequisites, like chemistry, anatomy review, things like that. Extra time to answer your questions. That's what I use it for. How will you be graded on your discussion section? Just you being here. Just you being here. You don't have to buy an extra book. You don't have extra assignments. It's just you here. We have discussion from 6:30 to 7:20, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Does not happen on Thursdays. So, if you want to sign up for the discussion section, here's how you will get your grade for that. Let's say you get a C in the physiology class, but you were here for discussion every day, participated with me. You will get an A in that discussion section. It's a unit and a half of an A for just sitting here. If, however, you do not pass physiology and you are enrolled in that discussion section, I have to give you the same grade as your physiology grade. Let me say that again differently. If you get a D or an F in the physiology course, I have to give you the D or the F in the discussion section. I have to. Clear? Okay. So let me make sure I'm finished with this. That's my family. That's clearly a younger Kara. My honey seems to have stood the test of time. He still looks like that. My kids are a lot older. The one that is hugging my honey is now 20 and is going to be a junior at UC Berkeley. The one that's hugging me, well, he will be a junior in high school. College, probably not. He will do jail time. It's not if, it's when. He will. It's just a matter of when. He's a good boy. But he has a touch of the devil may care in him. Anyway, you will be hearing a lot of stories about them. Yes, relevant to the material, but I just wanted you to see pictures, even though they are younger, in that picture, just to see faces, to put the imagery in your head of who I'm talking about. Yes, you're going to be tired, as Cole told you, stressed out, excited over the material. Some of you might have had previous experience in a clinical setting. Some of you will come up to me and say, I never knew why the doctor, or I never knew why the nurse was doing this, or sometimes I get ex-military medics saying, I never knew why they told me to do this. Now I understand why. Now I can actually go to work and have a conversation with the nurse, with the doctor. I understand why they're doing this. So it is an exciting time, but it's morbidly exciting. It's after 8 weeks together, it's a sign of abuse. You won't want to leave. You won't know what to do with yourself. No, and it's a sign of abuse. You'll text me. I don't know what to do. There's no work to do. No, you're done. You're done. You need to make friends, alliances. If you don't want to be friends, alliances in this room. And if you have family members that over the next 8 weeks say to you, I don't know why you're studying so hard. It's just a community college class. Well, you have my cell phone number. Have them call me. We'll talk. I will straighten them out. I've had to do that before. I've had spouses come in and I've said, you need to come talk to me. You will be supportive. You will be patient. Your boyfriend, girlfriend, have them call me. Now, don't worry. We'll include them. Oh, in Unit 2, I have some X-rated homework that you will be assigned. So your loved ones at home will be like, oh, I like this teacher. You'll have to wait for a few more weeks before you get that pornographic homework assignment. And I want details. I live vicariously through you all. Any questions? Okay. Well, then that marks the end of our first class together. If you are not enrolled in the discussion section, bye. Many of you are not. If you are not enrolled but you want to be, and you can't enroll because it blocked you, I have ad codes for you. Okay? So if that is you and you need an ad code, now's the time to come up to me. And discussion will start in just a few moments. Thank you. I need an ad code. You need an ad code. Please enroll with it by tomorrow because it's summer and the enrollment opportunities are very limited. And once we pass that date, there's nothing I can do. So I always say that right on time. Today. Your ad code for our discussion, which is ticket 12720. Yours is 1313.
Hello, Kara.
Ad code?
Yes, ma'am.
1334.
133. Thank you.
Ad code 1362. 1762. That's what you're coming up to me for.
1762?
Yes. 1883. 2006. 2314.
Thank you.
Put in the number. 2360. 2360. Yeah. 2726. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Ad code? Yes. 3659.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we're enrolled, we have to come every single time. What do you mean? Like to the discussion?
I mean, when you're going to be absent, I would like to know because if there is an emergency and I have to evacuate everyone, I actually take roll before I dismiss. So, I mean, if you're going to miss a time or two, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm flexible.
Okay.
We'll talk about 3659.
Yes, 3659.
Okay. Ad code or question?
Ad code.
3809.
3809. Okay, thank you. So, can't add myself right now. Be in the password. Should I go?
You're going to add, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Thanks. Well, you need to remember it, because I won't.
Okay.
It's 418. Correct.
She's really tough. You didn't like read. I did. You did.
Tomorrow can I get this? Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
But so that's next semester. Yeah. Next semester. It's a lot. Because it's like new information. There's something that you can never figure out. Yeah. Anatomy and like into the anatomy. It's going to be like the lab. Yeah. By the time I take it. Yeah.
I told my boyfriend for 8 weeks we won't have any time for each other.
Except for the pornographic unit 2, Kira.
Okay. I'll let him know. He'll be ecstatic.
You might not want to let him know once you hear about it. You might not. Hi, Sydney.
Do you actually remember me?
Weren't you in my class before?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't think you'd actually remember. I was like, oh, maybe. Anyway, can I turn these in now, or do you want me to wait until? Okay. Do I need to paper clip them or anything? Or?
Nope. This is good enough.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. It's just like, I didn't know if I had to like do a process, but I'm in
Okay. Most of the class is enrolled in the discussion section. You heard me say that if we have discussion, we do have discussion Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If I have assigned an exam on a Thursday, then I will shift a discussion section to that day. For example, I might say Wednesday we're not having discussion. I'm going to shift it to Thursday to give you all that are enrolled in it extra time for your exam. Does that make sense? Your exams, like I said, are definitely able to be completed in an hour and 20 minutes. That's if you've done your job. You should always budget your time. A minute per question is a good way to budget your time. Tests are usually about 100 points. So that means if you have 120, if it's an hour and 20 minutes, so that would be 80 minutes. You might have to be a little bit faster on some questions, but some questions won't take you a minute. Some of them will take you seconds to do. So it kind of comes out in the wash. Definitely look at your homework packet to see how to budget your time. But who am I talking to? I'm talking to the people who are enrolled in the discussion section. So you're going to have 2 hours and 20 minutes. You still want to know how to budget your time when you take those exams. For today's discussion section, I am going to go over, just quickly, a lecture that is already on YouTube on gene expression. This actually is from your prerequisite material. So I do not have to go over any prerequisite material. There's a reason why prereqs are prereqs. But I think it's good to go over some of the material. If there's anatomy that I need to review, that's important. I frequently will have a YouTube video that I can say, we need to talk about this, or you need to watch this video on the anatomy of the kidney so that you remind yourself what that kidney looks like down to the molecular level. So one item that you should have learned in anatomy, and a prerequisite to anatomy, is Bio 20, or a year's worth of high school biology. I would like to think that you know what gene expression is. I'd like to think that. Those are my two favorite words in science, gene expression. When you watch this video, if you need to review gene expression, here's what you should take from it. There are two processes in gene expression. The first one is transcription. The second one is translation. I hope these terms are not new to you. Here's what I need you to know for testing purposes. Where does transcription occur? Where in the cell does it occur? In the nucleus. Good. What do you begin with, and what do you get out of it? You begin with DNA. Could you describe DNA for me? And this lecture goes through the description of these things, these terms. So here's a picture of the DNA double helix. It's double-stranded, right? It is a type of nucleic acid. Are any of these words sounding familiar from high school biology or Bio 20 or even anatomy? Okay, if I say, tell me the nucleotides that you can find in DNA. Yes, I'm looking at you, Dana. All right, is your name Dana too?
Is it Dana or Ann?
Dana.
Oh, I'm Ann.
Okay, I was like, wow, I've got two Danas in a row. Because I know you're an anatomy teacher. And I know we talked about this. I said, tell me the nucleotides you could find in DNA. And you all said adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, and I'm waiting. Thank you. You could find it in DNA. Should you? No, you should not. But it is there. We do have uracil in our DNA. And that is something that I start to talk about towards the end of this video that I'm going to share with you personally, since this is discussion. Uracil is not supposed to be in DNA. It's not supposed to, but it is there. It's not frequent, but it's there. And I'm very snobby on this particular issue because I did my dissertation on DNA repair. And uracil, when it's found in DNA, is considered to be damage. And when it's found in DNA, your cells remove it from DNA, and they're supposed to put back the correct nucleotide. And remember that nucleotides in DNA are complementary. A base pairs with T, good, and G base pairs with C, good. Do I care how many hydrogen bonds they base pair with each other with? No, I do not. You are not training to be molecular biologists. But if you were, I would say, but not here, not here. I don't even care about all the proteins that need to assemble for transcription. I don't care if you can rattle off all the transcription factors. I don't care. Go find me a nurse or a doctor at Mission Hospital that can rattle off all of the eukaryotic transcription factors. They won't be able to, will they? Heck, I am a molecular biologist. I can't. Why? Because we discover new ones all the time. But I know where transcription occurs. I know what I begin with, and I know what I end with. What do I finish with? Messenger RNA. What does that look like? It's single-stranded. Instead of thymine, what do we have in there? Right? So whenever there was a T, we're now going to use a U. So if there was an A in the DNA and a T should be going in the messenger RNA, we don't use T, we would put a U. Okay. That's transcription. That's the first part of turning on a gene. That's what we mean by gene expression. You're turning on a gene. And there's a second part that we need to talk about, and that's translation. Now, I don't care about all of the proteins involved in translation either. I don't care. But I do care, where does it occur? Where? In the cytoplasm. What do we begin with? Messenger RNA. What will we finish with? A protein. Good. Now, a protein is a totally different macromolecule than nucleic acid. It's completely different on a chemical level. Proteins are made up of small units called what? Amino acids. And so, if you need to go through your gene expression, you will hear me say, why do you care about gene expression? We're trying to make a protein. In early afternoon class, didn't you hear me say that Claude Bernard talked about a milieu intérieur, a stable internal environment? And if we denature our proteins, if we do not maintain their integrity, everything in the cell is dysfunctional now. You do not have cells behaving as cells or tissues behaving as tissues. Proteins are the main workhorse of the cell. They provide structural support. They are a type of identity where your immune system can discern between self versus non-self. They allow the ability for cells to attach to each other. A lot of proteins are used as enzymes, and I'm old enough to say, I remember my science teacher saying, all enzymes are proteins, but not all proteins are enzymes. Did your science teacher ever say that to you? Because that's false now. It's false. Not all enzymes are proteins. That's a very big discovery. Did you know that RNA can act as an enzyme? What? That's crazy. Dogs and cats are living together? Mass hysteria. Name the movie. We'll work on that. Anyway, proteins are the main workhorse of the cell. Their integrity needs to be maintained. If you do not assemble amino acids together correctly, in the order that they should be put together, then the protein cannot fold correctly. If the protein does not fold correctly, then how can it do its job correctly, if at all? If at all. Most of the time, students think if a protein is not folded correctly, it will lose its function. And many times that is the case. Sometimes proteins can fold in a way where they have a new activity. And now that can cause problems in the cell too. We have proteins that have some sort of strange activity, and maybe they're not regulated. Early afternoon class, didn't we talk about regulation and how it works even down to the cellular level? proteins that are not folded correctly, that have an aberrant function, can be just as bad as proteins that aren't folded correctly and have a loss of function. It can be just as deleterious. And don't get me wrong, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. Sometimes proteins can be folded differently because a different amino acid got inserted, and they can have a different function that is amazing. Amazing. And now the cell is doing amazing things. Have you ever known someone who didn't ever have to take notes in class? But photographic memory? Didn't even open a book to study, and they would show up for a test and ace it every time? Do you know of that person? As a molecular scientist, molecular biologist, I want to find out what protein made that happen, because I'd like to bottle that. Think about the millions we can make. Do you know of someone who is so good athletically that they don't care about college because they're going to the major leagues? Do you know of someone who is a genius athletically? Do you wish you could play professional sports well and get paid for them? In my head, I am a professional soccer player, but I would never get paid for it. That's every little kid's dream. Well, it's one of a few. Little kids' dream to be, I'm not trying to be gender specific, but they either want to be a professional athlete or a ninja. There's like, and I'm speaking for my two boys, they want to be professional soccer player or a ninja. They all started out as a ninja. Can you imagine that job? I gotta go to work. There are people out there that can do things that are amazing to us. Do you ever stop and think like I do, like, what is it down to the molecular level that gives them that talent? I do. Genes code for the order of the amino acids. If the genetic material gets changed, if there is damage and it's not repaired the way it should be, it could lead to a new protein that might not fold the way it should, that might not act the way it should. It doesn't always mean loss of function. It could be gain of function. It could be a new function. But we need to think about those ideas when we're talking about gene expression. So let's do it again. Where does transcription occur? What do you begin with?
DNA.
What is DNA made of? Not amino acids. Nucleotides. Good. What's the outcome? Messenger RNA. Where will that go for part 2? Cytoplasm. What is the term for part 2? Good. What will we end with? Protein. What are proteins made of? What assembles? Good. Are there different kinds of amino acids? Yes. Should you memorize them? No! Some of you were afraid to answer. No, you should not memorize them. Are there classes where you are told to memorize them? Yes, that is called Biology 3C on this campus. Biochemistry, that's where you memorize all of them. And all amino acids, by the way, here's what you should recall. They all have a central carbon. They all have this group called the carboxyl group. They all have this group called an amine group. And they all have a hydrogen off the central carbon. That part is all the same. Part that's different is hanging off from the carbon in the fourth position. That's what gives the amino acids their different molecular identity. They're different chemical abilities. They're different abilities to fold and interact within the protein. And this week in lab, we have got to learn about carboxyl groups and amine groups, because here's why you care. Here's why you care. There are clinical labs. There are clinical devices in clinical laboratories that do analysis on patient blood, urine, other bodily fluids, and we analyze proteins all the time. We do all the time. We run them in gels, we run them on pieces of paper, and we can find out if a patient is in a disease state just by looking at their proteins. I'm going to teach you how. So, yeah, I need you to know about gene expression because we analyze proteins in a clinical setting all the time. I'm going to tell you about serum protein electrophoresis. I'm going to tell you about Western blots. I won't ask you to do them, but you need to know of them because these are clinical tests we do all the time. And if we're analyzing proteins, don't you think you should know where a protein came from and what it's made of and what it can do in the cell? Proteins are also part of our immune system. They're antibodies. We're going to talk about antibodies too. And I can run those out on a gel. And I can detect if you have a particular antibody. How many of you have had the chickenpox vaccine? How lucky are you? You are very lucky. How many of you were not fortunate enough to get the chickenpox vaccine, but you got chickenpox? Raise your hand. Congratulations. That virus is from the herpes family. It is the gift that keeps on giving. It is like an STD. That virus is still living in you. It's living in you, and it can rear its ugly head at any time. And you will relive that pain and agony sometime in the future if it decides to erupt from your nerve endings again. It's called shingles. It's not fun, is it?
No.
Don't you wish, like I did, that we got the vaccine? It's horrible. Where did you get your chicken pox? Not in the nether region?
No.
That is awful. That's an itch you can't get to. In your eye, in your ear. You can get chickenpox anywhere. Shingles is chickenpox. It's just, it comes out in the nerve ending. By the way, one of our admins is breaking out with it right now. Weirdest presentation. V1, ophthalmic division of cranial nerve 5. I've never seen it before. So I go to see her and she's like, I'm in so much pain, I'm on an antiviral. I'm like, oh, let me tell you about it. And I said to her, why are you having your outbreak? And I'm so sorry, I just gave you a hug, I must have hurt you. She goes, you can't see? I'm like, no, it's usually here. Did you have shingles as well? Have you had another outbreak?
I have no.
No, so touch wood, right? She has hers coming out across her eyes. She looks like a raccoon. It's the weirdest presentation. I've never seen shingles. And the doctors didn't diagnose her right away with it. They did CT scans and stuff, thinking she had a sinus infection, put her on antibiotic. Totally, it doesn't look like shingles. Yeah. See if you can figure out who has it. Go to the office. Field trip! So these proteins that I'm going to tell you, these laboratory tests that we do to analyze proteins, okay, that's fun to learn about, but we need to go back and understand where proteins come from and how they need to fold in order to have proper activity. So you do not memorize your amino acids. On a test, I want you to know where transcription occurs, what you begin with, what you end with. What are the components of nucleic acid? Nucleotides. Translation, where does it occur? What do you begin with? What do you end with? And what are the components of a protein? I think that's fair. I'd like to think that a nurse or a doctor at Mission Hospital could at least tell us that. I wouldn't expect them to draw all of the amino acids. I wouldn't expect them to tell me which ones are essential, which are circled on the screen. And some of them, it depends on your age if they're essential or not.
So is shingles like a guarantee later in life, or is it a maybe, depending on it?
It's a maybe. It depends on your immune. Who asked? Kelly? Who was it? Oh, Kira. Depends on your immune system. Now, this particular individual has been very stressed out lately. It's also spring, early summer, when viruses tend to rear their ugly heads. That's spring, early summer, when we get our outbreaks of viruses, measles even, in this day and age, weird to think about, chicken pox. It's when the days become longer. We're not really sure why, but it does. Sun, you're out and exposed to the sun, you get your fever blisters. What is that? Cold sores. What is that? It's herpes. I have in-laws that think herpes, fever blisters, cold sores are genetic, not contagious. And they want to kiss all over my kids while they have a raging out. Now they're British. I'm married to a British man. So we are very proper. We cannot talk about herpes. And I had to bring it up during a dining room conversation. Let's talk about that open sore. Oh yes, my fever blister. It's herpes. Oh, I do not have herpes. Yeah, you do, because I'm staring right at it. And both of you are kissing all over my kids. What do you want us to do about it? It's genetic. And my husband is just going, It's contagious. And you walk in the house and you have to have tea. Put the kettle on, you have to have tea. You don't even wash your cups. You just put them in the rinse bin and you get the same one. You share. No wonder everyone in this house has herpes. Oh, we don't have herpes. Yes, you do! It's genetic. Oh, okay. Raise your hand if you have a PhD in molecular biology. Oh, that's me! That's right! It is me! It is not genetic, it's contagious. Well, we have it and all 3 boys have it. I know! Let me explain to you why. Do you know both my parents have fever blisters? I said, oh, they do? Yes. Well, why don't you freak out? I'll tell you why. My mom's a nurse. She understands about this contagious thing that can be spread on contact. When she and my dad would have an outbreak, everything went into the Stericycle in the dishwasher. We didn't share cups, we didn't share utensils, and my mother never kissed us anywhere near the mouth. Ever! Oh, yeah, so stop kissing your grandchildren, please. We can study antibodies against viruses. So those of us who had the chicken pox, that's why I got on this topic. For those of us who had it, if you go to a school that says you must provide proof of immunization or that you've had this disease, how do we do that? We didn't have the immunization.
Antibody test.
What does that mean? You just said the magic T word. What does that mean?
See if you have it in your, so you get a blood test and then they see.
But what are they looking at? They are looking at antibodies. The only way I would make an antibody to it is A, I've ever had an immunization, or I've actually had the virus. And I had to prove one of those two things. They drew my blood. They ran my blood out on a gel or on a piece of paper, and they analyzed my antibodies. We can actually look at individual proteins. It's not hard to do. They're all unique. They have different amino acids. They fold different. They have different molecular weights. It's not hard to identify them. We do it all the time. So I need you to know where proteins come from. I don't think that's too hard for you to remember. Now, here are some other words that I want you to know about. And this whole lecture is me, maybe transcription, translation is new to you, or you just want to hear it from me because you think I'm so amazing already on the first day. But you can listen to it. I don't even care about the different subunits to a ribosome. I don't care if we're talking about the eukaryotic translation. I don't care. I just want to know where translation occurs. Because we're doing human physiology, where eukaryotes is happening in the cytoplasm. We start with messenger RNA. We finish with proteins. Why do we care about gene expression clinically on a daily level? How many of you love coffee? Starbucks. I don't care. Coffee in general, some sort of caffeinated product. Just go into Starbucks or some sort of coffee shop and look at the people that work there. Just watch them. They have different gene expression. They do. They have turned on different genes, silenced others, just from the smells of coffee. Even when you smell it, even when you taste it, something externally can change our gene expression pattern. Genes get turned on and turned off. What's your name? Yeah.
Trisha.
Trisha. Watch. I've just changed her gene expression. I have. I've changed, seriously. I've even changed what hormone she was just releasing in that moment. Just from the power of touch. Go into a coffee shop. Look at them. They don't act like people outside of a coffee. Can I help you? They are different. Now that I've told you, you'll pick up on it. That's different. Things you smell throughout the day, things you eat throughout the day, people you interact with. It's weird how that can change your gene expression. It can, and it does. Who are my parents again? Okay, any men who are parents. Okay, there we go. Okay, you don't have to be pregnant to have a change in gene expression when you become a parent. But it is phenomenal, the change in gene expression when you become a parent. I like to say I've turned into potatoes and corn. I have eyes and ears everywhere now. Yes?
Yes.
And we've turned into an octopus too. Have you not become amazing at carrying multiple things? And when someone says, oh my gosh, can I help you? Don't touch me! I'm balanced! You do things that are amazing. Stress changes gene expression. Stress comes in different varieties. Hans Selye was a horrible scientist. Awful! What this man did was awful. He was so careless. He started out as a lab technician. He was so bad. His job was to go in and shoot up the rodents with different things, chemicals. He would frequently drop the rodents on the floor, break the needles off inside them. And when the animals saw him coming, they became agitated. He is the person credited with realizing what general adaptation syndrome means. That's your stress response. Oh, you're going to have that over the next 8 weeks. Cortisol. Your gene expression will change from the stress in this class. Absolutely. Stress can also be eustress. It doesn't have to be distress. Eustress is when you perceive stress as being something beneficial that will change you for the better. Parenthood is oftentimes viewed that way. Yes, it's stressful waking up in the middle of the night, but hey, it looks like me. Taking this class, I hope you think of it as eustress. Stressful, but you're going to be better at the end of it. Hey, if attitude is everything in life, pick a good one. So that's the attitude you're going to pick. All of that is going to change your gene expression. And when the cortisol levels go through your body, they can cause changes in gene expression for months. For months from now, you're going to be paying for this class, physically and mentally. So we care about gene expression. It's not just about your being exposed to coffee, me touching you, changing the levels of your oxytocin. By the way, that's a secret. Try when you're arguing with someone and they're mad at you, just, yes, honey, I know. Try it. It's a technique I use all the time on honey. And then he just has picked up on it, so now he tried. I'm like, no! I know that one. Feelings, how you feel. Some people that feel disconnected from society have actually a lot more issues with inflammatory responses. I mean, it's amazing how our gene expression is changed moment to moment, from smells, what you eat, touches you have. It has a big impact. It even goes down to a clinical level. Why do you think so many people these days have support animals, for crying out loud? You got to find something else to love and stroke. Right? Who brings a peacock as a support?
Thank you. Sorry.
Look, I'm all for something that you need to touch and rub, but keep it in your pocket. I do. The moment a doctor or nurse comes in with their support animal while they're attending to me, I am gone. Gone. Snobby terminology that is important when I talk about things in this class when it comes to gene expression. Mutation versus damage. You heard me say uracil could be in DNA. That's damage. It's not a mutation yet. But if it's not fixed correctly, then it can become a mutation. Mutations don't always impact a protein. We will not get into silent mutations, missense mutations. Those are fun terms. Take a genetics class with me. Not all mutations are bad. Not all mutations will disrupt a protein. They have the potential. They have the potential. Not all mutations will lead to a protein that loses function. It could change function. It could gain function. Different types of cancer are caused by proteins losing function, and some types of cancer are caused from gaining function. You see Tuesday, early afternoon class, it's all about homeostasis, balance. Late night afternoon, you're gonna learn about that tonight with me. Totipotent, pluripotent, multipotent, unipotent stem cells. Oh, stem cells. Gosh, that's in the news all the time. And depending on who the president is at the time, sometimes we get a moratorium on stem cell research. We do. I won't go into that too much. But the public does not know what stem cells are, usually. Fetal stem cells. Most of the time when I ask someone out in the public, what are fetal stem cells, where do they come from? I get answers like, it's taking a baby and putting it in a blender. No, it's not. Yes, no, it's not. Raise your hand if you have a PhD in molecular biology. Oh, that's right, it's me! I've worked with stem cells. I've had to make them. They are not all the same. It depends which kind you're playing with. These words, totipotent, pluripotent, unipotent, multipotent, they give you an idea of how powerful or not the stem cell is. For example, unipotent stem cell is a cell that is made, replicated, divides for most of your lifespan, but it can only generate one kind of cell, just one. And the best example of that would be sperm, right? Those spermatogonia replicate and divide for most of a man's life, but you do not have spermatogonia doing this in a man's testicle. I'm so tired of making sperm. Just once I'd like to make an osteocyte, okay? Can I just make an osteocyte? I keep hearing the joke about a boner. I'd actually like to make a bone. No spermatogonia does that. Right? Can only make one type. Okay, what about multipotent? Multipotent stem cells can replicate and divide for your lifespan for the most part, but they can give birth to cells that have a common function. Common. Your blood cells come from a multipotent stem cell called hemocytoblast. More on that stem cell in the future. But when it replicates and divides, all it can generate are cells in your blood. That's all it can make. It can make red blood cells, can make platelets, which are fragments of cells in your blood, can make white blood cells. But it can only make the formed elements of your blood. The hemocytoblast cannot go, I just want to make a cardiocyte for once, just once. I'm so bored. Nope, can't. What about totipotent and pluripotent? Those have more power. Totipotent can replicate and divide and generate a brand new organism. All the cells in the organism. You have 200 different kinds of cells. And a totipotent stem cell can make all of them. Plus, oh, there's more, plus all of the extra embryonic membranes. That means all of the attachments that come with a developing fetus, the placenta, the umbilical cord, the amniotic sac, all of that extra stuff. How it sticks to mama. A pluripotent, we take cells from a developing embryo. And when we take those cells, it can replicate and divide and turn to any of the cells in that new organism, but it does not make the attachments to mom. It does not make the placenta. It does not make the amniotic sac. It does not make the umbilical cord. And it's the pluripotent stem cells that you hear about a lot in the news. Fetal stem cells. They're talking about pluripotent stem cells. What is the best example of a totipotent stem cell? A zygote. That's when the sperm and the oocyte unite, their pronuclei fuse, you have a new single cell, soon-to-be organism that can also grow all the attachments to mom's uterus. That is totipotent. Pluripotent, we get those. Do you remember your anatomy when you learned about embryogenesis? Chapter 3, to be exact. You learned about a morula, which was a set of about 16 cells, a ball of cells. And then it turned into a sphere of cells where you had this fluid-filled cavity, and then you had cells in what was called the inner cell mass. That we can go in, suck out some of those cells, grow them in a petri dish. It is not a blender. The remaining cells can still replicate and divide. We're just taking a few. Believe it or not, it does not mean the rest of the cells cannot survive. We can do that and grow them. And then we have learned how to give chemical signals to start changing those cells, telling them how to change their gene expression to turn into a cardiocyte, to grow into an ear. We can grow ears on the back of rodents. I am seeing some of you that watch South Park. That was a different X-rated episode. It was not an ear that they grew. Look at the joy. Look at the joy in some of the people in the class. Now she's talking to me. You'll have to watch South Park to figure out what they grew in the back of this rodent. You can imagine. We can grow a heart. We can grow a heart. We're figuring out how to do this. Not my job to tell you if it's right or wrong. That's not my job. That's your job. My job is just to tell you where we get these. What we can do with them. That's my job. Your job is to be an educated consumer of this information. You decide what you think we should do with this, and when, and how. That's your job. Good? Bye. Yes.
The test forms, I saw somewhere. Sorry, I saw somewhere.
It's not recorded.
Oh, okay. I saw in the